Hi, I'm Vicki from Find Me Crafting. All year, I've been releasing patterns for the Cuddle Buddies Baby Blanket. And that means I have all kinds of cute, free patterns for animal appliques that go on this blanket. And then the other day, while I was thinking about all things Christmas, I had what I think is kind of a fantastic idea. What if I turned those animal appliques into Christmas ornaments? This is the same pattern as the baby blanket with just a few modifications. And now they are 3D, they are a little bit stuffed, they are extra adorable and ready for a Christmas tree. And you can also add fuzzy yarn. This ornament is so cute, you just want to pick it up and snuggle with it. It is also 3D, same pattern, just with fuzzy yarn. I can show you how to do all the modifications to make these into ornaments, and they are going to bring so much joy to your Christmas tree. Come on, I'll show you how. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any new patterns or projects. The process for making ornaments versus making an applique is very, very similar. But there are a few supplies you will need for the ornaments that you don't need for the applique. With the exception of the Sloth's nose, everything else will be crocheted with an E 3.5 millimeter hook. So these are all slightly smaller than the appliques are. If you want your ornament to look like mine, instead of crocheting the eyes, I used safety eyes. They look like this on the front. They have a post like this on the back. And for each eye, you will need a plastic backing that looks very similar to this. Now, I don't use safety eyes on the Cuddle Buddies blanket because that for me is a baby blanket, and you shouldn't be giving anything to someone under the age of 2 that has safety eyes because they can rip these free of the yarn and then they pose a choking hazard. But this is going to be for an ornament. I'm going to have this on a Christmas tree and I don't want a child touching this in general. So safety eyes is a good bet for me for this project. And I'll show you how to install these in a minute. I did use different sizes for the animals, and this is purely personal choice. This is just what I thought looked cute. I used an 18 millimeter eye for the koala, a 16 millimeter eye for the monkey, and I used 12 millimeter eyes for the sloth. You're also going to need some polyfill stuffing just so that we can lightly stuff the ornaments. It makes them look a little more like stuffed animals. To put the whites on the eyes and a shadow underneath the koala's nose, I am also using a sport weight white yarn. So you could use regular yarn. I just like it to be a little bit thinner because all the features are a little bit smaller. It's also quite useful to have some stitch markers when you attach the ears onto the monkey and the koala so you can mark where you want them to go. And for the sloth ornament, you could definitely make this using the yarn that I have in the pattern for the applique, which is Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn and Toasted Almond. I wanted to make this guy a little bit fuzzy, so I used Premier Little Bunny in the color Toffee. I'm going to show you the differences between making an applique and making an ornament, and I'm going to start with this koala. Each koala ornament has 2 sides, of course, and so you need to make 2 of the headpieces. They are exactly the same as the applique, only I used the smaller E 3.5 millimeter hook. The pattern is exactly the same though. You're also going to need to make 2 ear backs. So these do not have any white in the center. And 2 ear fronts. Now both of these I stopped after row 3. So it's exactly the same pattern. Instead of doing a 4th row and attaching the fuzzy yarn, the elephant gray yarn, I stopped after row 3. I finished off, I've woven all my ends in, and now I'm going to attach the front and the back of each one with the fuzzy furry yarn. So this is Pipsqueak yarn in the color Elephant Gray. I am just going to make myself a slip knot, and I'm going to put the wrong sides of these ears together. So they're kind of, the right side is the side that's kind of curving toward me. I'm going to put wrong sides together and hold them. And now I want to single crochet through both the front and the back of the ear. So I'm going to go under both sets of loops over here on the end and grab my Pipsqueak yarn. I'm going to bring that through and chain 1 just to hold it. And now I'm just going to work 12 single crochets through both. So I'm going to go through the loops on the front of the ear, the loops on the back of the ear, yarn over, pull through. There's actually 2 loops here. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. Now I'm going to move to the next set. I'm going to go through both the front and the back of the ear, yarn over, pull up a loop. There's 2 there, yarn over, pull through. And I'm just going to do that for these stitches till I get back to over here, and I'm going to finish off, and it's going to attach both ears together and give me that little bit of cute fuzziness. So when you get done, you should have 2 ears that look like this, and the bottom section between the 2 will be open. That is what we want. So these are ready. Let's move on to the next step. Take one of the head pieces that you've created. This is going to be the face, and what we're going to do is attach the facial features. I'm going to start by attaching the nose. It goes right in the center, and we sew it on just like you would the applique. This is the point at which I like to attach the safety eyes. So I like to push them in where I think I want them to go. And for this one, I like the top of the eye to be about level with the top of the nose. So I'm going to put it in, and right now it's not secured. I can remove it and test it out somewhere else. So I like to put in both and make sure I like the placement, because once you lock these in place, they are not moving. So once you like the placement of them, you're going to flip them over, and there is a little ridge right here. You need to put the backing on, and I put it on so that the cup shape is facing inward, and you're going to push down until it clicks just over that ridge, and it's going to lock it. It's not going to come back off that ridge. So that's 1, 2. And I can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera, but you can actually hear it click over that little ridge, so it's locked on. So now these are completely secure. Using a sport weight yarn, a size 3 yarn in the color white, I'm going to add the whites to this eye just like I would an applique. I'm also going to embroider on this under nose sort of shadow area. And I'm going to use black to embroider on the mouth. And I want to do that all before I attach the front and back pieces of the head. When I put the whites of the eyes on, I think it looks best if I come up to the bottom, just like I did with the crocheted eyes. I want to get almost underneath the eye here. I'm kind of angling it back under the eye itself. And I'm going to try to get as close to the eye as possible when I go down through the other side. And then, of course, flip it over to the outside of the eye, and that's looking super cute. Now we're going to be attaching all the pieces together. So I'm going to use some stitch markers as I do this so I can mark where I want the ears to go. I am going to be putting the wrong sides of these 2 head pieces together. I want to have about 8 stitches empty between the edge of the 2 ears. So I'm going to look at where that might be, count out my stitches. So this is where I want them to be attached. What I'm going to do is mark this first stitch where I'm going to first insert an ear. And then, because I'm continuing around sort of counterclockwise, the next ear is probably going to start here. So now I can move the ears, and I'm going to begin over here single crocheting through with the same color yarn that I used for the head. So I've made a slip knot. I'm going to just pick a section over here, and I'm going to pull my yarn through both the front and back pieces of the head. I'm going to chain so it holds it in place. And now I am just going to begin single crocheting through both layers. So under both loops on the front, under both loops on the back, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and go through 2 loops. And I'm going to continue doing that around, matching up the front and the back, going through both set of loops until I get to this first stitch marker. I am up to my stitch marker. I'm going to move that so it's out of my way. I am going to hold the ear kind of in place in between the front and the back. And now for these stitches that go through the ear, the front, and the back, I'm going to slip stitch, not single crochet, but slip stitch. So what I find easiest, I go under the loops of the front. I'm going to go under both the front and back of the ear, so through both sets of stitches. And now I'm going to go through the loops on the back of the head. So I have my hook through all of those layers. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 layers, the back of the head, both layers of the ear, and the front. And There's what I just pulled through, and I'm gonna pull it through the loop on my hook. Now I'm gonna move to the next stitch. I'm gonna go through the front of the head, through the front and back of the ear, and into the next stitch on the back of the head. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 4 layers, just like that, and then pull through the loop on my hook. And I'm going to continue doing that until this ear is completely attached. Once you have that ear sewn on, which should be 7 stitches, now you're going to work these 8 stitches between the ears that are just single crochets again. So just through the front and the back of the head and single crochet. That should be 8 times to get to the next ear. Now I'm over to my second stitch marker, so I can remove that. And I'm going to repeat the same process with the left ear, where I go through the front, both layers of the ear, and the back, and slip stitch 7 times. Now I'm going to go back to single crocheting just the front and back together, but I'm going to get to about here and leave myself a 2-inch opening where I'm just going to pause and stop attaching. Into this opening that we've left, I'm going to lightly stuff my koala's head with the polyfill. I don't stuff very much. I just want it to be 3D and kind of squishy, but you don't want to overstuff it or it'll pull your stitches apart. And once you have it stuffed how you'd like it, you just need to single crochet the rest of these stitches closed and slip stitch to the first single crochet over here. Now just cut your tails and weave in your ends. All that's left to do is add the hanging loop at the top so that you can hang him on a Christmas tree. So I'm going to create a slip knot. And right at the top center of the head, I'm going to go underneath the loops, grab my slip knot, pull it through, and chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm just going to slip stitch back under the same loop that I attached the yarn to. I'm going to pull through there and through the loop on my hook, and that's done. Just finish off and your loop is done. I like to knot my starting and ending tail and weave these in. Now your koala is ready to hang on a tree and bring some Christmas joy. Let me tell you a little bit about the monkey. He is made exactly like the pattern for the applique, except that I am using the smaller E 3.5 millimeter hook. The only other thing that you need to add on or do differently is, of course, you need to make 2 of the head pieces so that you can make him 3D. And you're going to make 1 earpiece exactly as the pattern is written, and 1 where you stop before the 4th row. So this is 3 rows in just 1 color instead of starting with the ivory yarn. Once you have both the front and back of the ear made, you can use a piece of the matching yarn and sew the 2 together. You want to make sure you don't tack down this fun little edge here on the monkey's ear. And then when it's time to assemble the monkey, I put the safety eyes into this eye area. I attach the mouth area, the eye area. I embroider on the nose and the mouth. And then I just stitch the front and back together, just those 2 pieces all the way around, and stuff it. I did not attach the ears the same way as the koala. I attached these separately. I just sewed them on after I sewed the head, because otherwise you kind of catch this edge and it flattens out and it doesn't look as nice. So I attach these after the head is completely sewn together, and then do a hanging loop the same way I do as the koala. And last but not least, the sloth. This pattern is done exactly as the original applique pattern is written, except for the nose. In both patterns, the nose is made with a B 2.25 millimeter hook. But in the case of the ornament nose, instead of doing 2 single crochets into a magic circle and then a half double, and then 2 single crochets and 1 half double, what I did instead was 1 single crochet and a half double, and then 1 single crochet and a half double. So I just eliminated 1 single crochet and then 1 single crochet, so 2 stitches, to make it a little bit smaller. Everything else about this sloth is the same. The pattern for the fuzzy yarn is the same as the regular applique. I did make a front and a back to the head with the fuzzy yarn. I made both of the eye areas, attached the safety eyes, and added eye whites. I sewed those onto my face piece, sewed on my nose, embroidered my mouth, and then sewed this entire face piece with all these little facial features onto just one side of the head. And then I just used the little bunny yarn to single crochet around the outside to close it all up. I did add a hanging loop with Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn in light taupe, but the process for making the loop is the same as the other two. I hope you have as much fun making these ornaments as I did. Happy crafting!